But in the meantime, we got somebody who's got a little bit different intention. You see the eyebrows, they're a little more aggressive. Welcome back to another wonderful review of Wonderful Precure. Today we start off with episode 32. And I will say immediately, I really love the vibe of this episode and how they approach specifically Iroha's character. Here we have Iroha feeding an elephant for the first time and actually not immediately loving it. He is quite scared of the elephant and does not want to feed it. And we will find out what happened as this episode begins to unfold. But of course, all that was just a flashback sequence. And we've got little Komugi waking up Iroha in the way that a pet only knows how to do. Also, Nico-sama's trunk, it's shown. I did not realize that the interior of Nico-sama's trunk is like a little throne. I think this is the first time I've actually taken a look at it. I like the design a lot. I think that's really cute. I'm assuming this is closer to like an impression on the actual one because I don't think the interior is that large. But that's a cute idea. But I also think it's hilarious to imagine that Nico-sama is just sitting on her throne 90% of the time. But nonetheless, we are going to the zoo this episode. And of course, rich boy Satoru over here has like the season pass and comes all the time. My man's out here is giving like that fast pass that they have at Disney World. Oh, by the way, we're gonna have a lot of Easter eggs. And honestly, I kind of prefer it this way. Other seasons, like you could make the argument, other seasons have had kind of in the 30s. Yeah, I usually would say it's like 32, 33, 34 are the episodes where they do a crossover one, because I think they did similarly in Hakuto specifically. I didn't like the way Hakuto did it because I feel like it took away from the runtime of Hakuto to have the crossover episodes. Don't get me wrong, they were good, but having the characters from previous seasons really kind of usurped some of the storyline and took away time from our characters. So I do like that we get to see the Hodoguru Sky gang, but it's not in such a way that's really taking away from the story, and they don't really interact with the main cast because they're going to interact in the movie. That's the movie's job. Also, shout out to this for people who did not pick it up. This is a Dancing Stars reference, by the way, because we gotta put all of like what happened with Precure last year into this episode. I also put this in here just because if this happened to me, if a monkey randomly like was chilling out on my head while I was at the zoo, I would lose it. I'd absolutely lose it. I do want to put it out here, because this may just be a me thing, but they call this a petting zoo. It's not a petting zoo. Petting zoos to me are like what mini golf is to golf. Like, it's a miniature version of a zoo. But this is just a legitimate zoo where in certain areas you're allowed to touch the animals, which you can do at other places. Usually there's like a touch pool or something. I've been to a lot of aquariums. But, like, they don't just call a zoo where you can touch the animals a petting zoo, because, like, at my zoo that's locally nearby me, you can touch a good amount of the animals except for the ones that are, like, majorly endangered and or will cause you bodily harm. Like, that poster in the front of the zoo had a hippo. We're not touching the hippos. I don't think people know how aggressive and evil hippos are. Like, I think people just don't know. I think they make them look so cute and rotund. Don't... Listen to Satoru. Listen to Satoru. Don't go near hippos. They're really aggressive. They can't even swim. Did you know hippos can't swim? They weigh too much. They just sink to the bottom. So they don't swim in the water. They literally just jump off the bottom of the water. They just fall to the bottom and then just push off the bottom. Hippos are terrifying. Stay away from hippos. Unless it's the Mermaid Melody hippo, because he's adorable, but that's a different story. Also, with our references, I like that we included all the villains, specifically because the villains were not super evil at the end of the day for Hodoguru Sky. So we've got our Kabaton, Minaton, our Empress Undig. I also love that they all match animals. I never really thought about her being kind of a rooster, but that does match her aesthetic. She did kind of have like a punk rooster look. And then of course we've got the whole gang, which a lot of people were curious of how much of the gang was going to get shown. Though shout out to Tsubasa for getting like most of the line. Ayamu. Also, he's doing that pose. He's like doing that pose that Amity does in Owl House that people don't like, that they made a meme. For those who know, you know, but it's that meme pose. It's so distracting. But I'm really glad to see these two interact again. I also like that they kept the style, because that was one of the things that's kind of difficult from series to series. Like, I wonder if they just got back the original team for this, because it'd probably be easier to get back the original team because they just worked on it last year. Because the art style is, like, you can see, like, they do the little shading on the nose. and then the eyes are different, and they do little glowy glues when their eyes are closed and everything. Like, it's very much the aesthetic of Hodogaru Sky. Like, it doesn't feel like unless they're doing a really good job of it, it doesn't feel like the wonderful Precure people animating the Hodogaru Sky gang. It does feel like the original team for Hodogaru Sky, but that could just be me. Because just to put it as a contrast, this is what they look like. They have the glow spot on their nose as their shading instead of like the shading that they had in Hodogaru Sky. They look different. Also, they do this little segment, which for those of you who have might recognize this particular one, is the final shot for Hodogaru Sky Precure that they recreated, which is that's quite cute. I like that they brought that back. There's also this parrot that keeps showing up. Like, I think the bit is that he makes like a comment on what's going on, but it's so jarring that they keep cutting to the parrot. Also, the dude on the right here appears to be a Skier reference for another Hodogaru Sky, in case this is like, there's so many blink and you miss it moments in this episode, but I believe that that's what that's likely showcasing for our Mr. Boa Constrictor holder. Or Mr. Boa Constrictor holder. Dude, I loved when like we had like actual petting zoos. We had our type of petting zoos come to our like state fair and stuff, and we would always have like one guy in the corner who'd have the snake. So I'm glad that that also carries over into Japan, that they have like the one guy who always walks around with a little boa constrictor on his neck. And then there's this interesting sequence with Yuki and Nico here as kind of our B plot. I find all of this incredibly fascinating because for the most part the B plot thing that is occurring here is that Yuki is jealous of Mayu hanging out with other animals, and she feels like she needs to be the #1 animal in Mayu's life, and that comes up a couple times, and Yuki's like, I'm not interested in the animals and you shouldn't be either, but like it's very lighthearted and it doesn't go particularly deep. Like, they didn't go very aggressive with it, which is fine, and honestly probably for the better. But at the same time, there is something going on with Nico-sama, which I think eventually will come to head, which we've been talking about for the past few episodes, is that I am under the impression that Nico-sama is not actually very pro-human. She is probably very anti-human, but compared to the way that Gao is handling things, her thing is like, oh, we just, we'll just move away from it, we'll just walk away from these humans. And, they can just sit in the corner and do their thing, be cute little humans, and we will be in the Nico garden where it's safe. That is my impression of how Nico-sama has handled this conflict, and I really hope that is sort of going to be right, because I would love to see that get bombastically addressed later in the series. But my assumption here is that Yuki knows that. I think Yuki knows that Nico is not particularly fond of the humans. But I also think Nico-sama is aware that Yuki is very possessive of Mayu and that Yuki needs to loosen up. I don't know, this whole sequence is very interesting and I'm excited to see where that unfolds in the future. Nice to see Elle in her grown-up form. I do wonder, now that, like, you think about it, she's been able to use this, I guess, since the conclusion of their series, unless this is no, this has to be post the conclusion of the series, because we see the rest of the villains hanging out, not being problematic, so this is definitely post Hodogaru Sky, so I guess she still has the ability to just swap between being a child and being a little bit more grown up. I'm so interesting that she can still do that. I kind of didn't think she could by the end of it. I don't know why I thought that, but that's interesting. I wonder if that had lasting consequences when she actually becomes of age. I also like, again, one of the things that I really enjoy about this series is that even if the episode's main plot, which this one will kind of leans towards Iroha's conflict with animals and like how Iroha has become who she is, which I will get into, I do like that we had the Yuki subplot. We've seen there were a couple of moments where Mayu's just really excited to see the animals. And then here we have Satoru connecting with somebody with rabbits and explaining like how to properly approach rabbits and everything, and just like being very mindful and very demure. I like it a lot. I like that we get all this inclusion of the characters, because it does feel like, how do I put this? This series, compared to the way other series have handled it, make all the characters feel like they're individuals that are contributing, while also feeling like we cohesively have the whole team. It feels like everybody's included. Because for the episodes that have been character-focused, they haven't been so aggressively character-focused that the other characters don't exist, which I think has been a balancing issue in a lot of seasons that I think they're really finally getting a good feel for. where we can have an episode that focuses on the conflict of one or two characters, as this episode is doing, but also not forget that we have a cast of other characters, especially somebody like Satoru, who's not even a cure. R.I.P. Daifuku, who's not in this episode. There's also just like this, again, following the B-plot, we have the heartwarming moment of like this rabbit coming to Yuki that she ultimately warms up to. She's warming up to the idea of other animals, which is always like, that's something they've been doing throughout the series. We've had that, especially with the Kitadine animals. Like, she's been like, I do not care for anybody that is not Mayu, but she's really grown. Like, it's been the perfect, like, slow stair-step development that I really, really wanted, and it's been perfect. I'm super happy with that. And now we get to our main plot, which is Sakura the elephant. This like grandma looking elephant that is in the series kind of has my heart. I was not sure what they were going to do with the whole elephant thing, but I cannot tell you how happy I am with what this episode has done, specifically with Iroha. Now, something that other seasons have done that I didn't feel was as compelling as it could have been is that they will have characters have their character stories happen when they were kids. Like, Star Twinkle is really notorious for that, because there's like 3 or 4 characters where most all of their character development occurred off screen and they don't have a lot of present day development, which is not something I personally love. I like characters that have their backstory when they were kids but also have present conflicts, which is great with the way that they set up Iroha throughout the series, because Iroha, for a lot of the show, people have been like, she doesn't really have much, like, she's been the pillar that brings everybody together in the show, but she doesn't have a lot of her own character story to it. She's just the girl who likes animals. And I really loved her conflict with Nico-sama. I'm hoping to see more from that as well. I also love her conflict with our new villains, where she's just like, but we love animals. And they're like, humans have not loved animals forever. And her feeling the burden of that, I love it. I love that we've had this like testing of her resolve and her being shaken by it, because other seasons characters have sat there and been like, oh, well, I believe in, like, never lying, or I believe in, you know, being perfect or something, and they just, like, not at all in their series get shaken at any point. Nothing really shakes them to the core, pushes them, which is fine. That's one way to handle it. Like, we have diversity in how we handle our characters, which is good. We love the variety, but I do prefer a character like Iroha, where we've had her be kind of this perfect character who's always kind of known what to do, but now that she, like, had her core shaken, so she's had present day conflict with her story, and then in this episode, we see how she had the foundation of who she is. She had the conflict when she was a child, but has grown since then, and this is just, like, the cornerstone of who she is. I really like that because I love the balance. I think it's a really strong backstory, and I think it's even better because we just had her core shaken when we got our mid-season power-up. And it's just such a heartwarming, cute little backstory of, like, her dealing with something that, specifically a prime example for the whole animal thing. Bigger and more aggressive looking animals are incredibly intimidating, and so, like, dealing with an elephant for the first time when you're a child, all you think is big. That animal's really, really big. But in the cutest little way, seeing that big animal doesn't mean they're bad, they're just kind of, they can be a little harmless. And it's just such a cute little connection. Also, again, they did a really good job. Like, I gotta stress this enough. Drawing quadrupeds is a hard time. And having this elephant just, like, come off as, like, the sweetest little grandma character who, like, passionately cares about Iroha is so cute. They did a really good job. And then also, we have to have the signature lashes. I mean, look at the... If it's an animal in this series, then it's a good guy. It's got eyelashes, baby. And then I just love these, like, I love the sort of, like, kind of resting eye smile, like, oh, something very cool just happened and we're all appreciating it. I love it when people do that little face. And we get to see it from, like, almost everybody. Like, it's just so sweet. One of my favorite faces. But in the meantime, we got somebody who's got a little bit different intention. You see the eyebrows, they're a little more aggressive. We know it's gonna go down. And the stakes are so much higher now because, like, again, it's no longer just some random Nico animal that we have to deal with. Like, we knew that the main animal of this episode was Sakura, and now she's gonna get Kaoru to fight. Also, we have this panning shot where we see, oh my god, I combine like 18 different names for the B name villains. This is Batamanda. I keep wanting to say Batatamanda, but that's like, that's combining another character. Batamanda, Manda, specifically his human form, eating food. He snuck in there, even though this is supposed to be a Mahotsukai shot. But yeah, we have the Mahotsukai gang. I also love the little details that they put in here, because at first I was like, oh, are they eating the food in the next scene? No, they brought their own food, which, mind you, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to bring your own food. but I like seeing the mellow pen again, and I can't remember if it was an orange or like a clementine that they froze. It's been a hot second since I've seen Mahotsukai. We'll need to revisit. We also got like Mafuruun has a little pink pillow so she can reach the table. Also just wanted to appreciate the food, dude. I know this ain't Delicious Party, but god, look at this burger that they somehow magically shaped like a little elephant. I also don't know what the purple sauce is. I feel like when it comes to burgers, stuff can randomly be the wrong colors. Like, does anybody remember the era where they had different color ketchup? They had like green and purple ketchup. If you forgot, that's good. If you weren't born then, that makes me feel old. Also, the chibis feel different this episode. I don't know if like they have somebody else on the chibi team, but the chibis just look different in the little like cutaway bits. Also, again, no, this is not Delicious Party, and I doubt this is a Delicious Party reference, but it does feel like the layout for the restaurant in Delicious Party. This is also just a really pretty shot of Yuki as she is like, you know, meditating on the information that she's gotten and the fact that, you know, you can love all these cute little animals at the zoo. But of course, we can't have good times. Immediately we go to our Gaogaon Sakura. This battle's not great, I'm gonna be honest. I like that they combine their shields, but it's so depressing that even with all of like, you know, we're supposed to be stronger, we're supposed to be handling things better, we really just don't do well at this battle at all. Like, they just keep getting wiped. And they even try, like, there's no reason other than the fact that, like, there's gonna be the sequence that we see. There's no reason why this should have failed. Like, they're using the power of friendship, they're all using the shields at the same time. They also, like, shoot out 3 Kidadine animals, none of which are the swan, which I took personally. We can use the swan. Is it useful in this situation? No, but are the wings cute? They are. But this is all because we wanted to have the animals stand there and be like, yo, Sakura, stop it. You don't like hurting people. Which, it's a cute little circle of life moment. I don't love that it comes at the expense of our girls being remotely strong. Like, there's this consistent them not doing much that keeps happening in the series. They feel a lot weaker than they should be, but we are in the 30 episode range. If they keep this up in the 40 episode range, I'll be a little remiss, but hopefully, you know, it won't last beyond the 30 episode range that we still feel a little weak. But ultimately, the animals are like, stop that. This is not who you are. And we have the resolution, where we do get Iroha, as she deserves, coming in and helping out Sakura, which, this is why I really love that we have more of a personal connection with the animals that are getting transformed. I love that they did this for the second half of the series. I love also that I do appreciate that the first half of the series just did some random Kidadine animals that we help out, that we don't really care that personal level about. But now we do, because it's making the second half of this way more powerful, way more, like, emotional. Like, this was just a pretty emotional episode. And then she gets boink. She gets a little boop on her cheek, which is so cute. I think this whole bit's super cute. And then of course we get one of these faces again. It's just so cute. I love the emotion. And we end this episode off with just like the memory and the connection, and like it does such a good job at giving us a backstory for why Iroha is the way she is and like the connections that she has with animals, especially since it had strife. Like, I cannot tell you how, like, it's kind of like making a hamburger and then forgetting the meat when we don't have that level of conflict. Like, you could have just like a salad sandwich, but when you put the burger on there, you get a hamburger. Or if you get like one of those, like, I can't believe it's not a burger, whatever those are called, the Impossible Burger stuff. Either way, we gotta put the substance in the middle. That is the core aspect of it, which is a little bit of strife. And then we put all the good stuff on top, like the buns. And I love it. I think it's just so good for Iroha's character. I think it really gave meat to her character. My food analogy is not great this episode, but I hope you're understanding what I'm putting down. Anyways, I will see you next episode. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye!